A dream to some.
A nightmare to others!
But I will give you a message. A message of death!
Oh yeah! Come out and play it!
Make no attempt to capture them. They must be exterminated.
Matron, take them away!
Stardust speaks to you.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 2 of season 4 of We Need to Talk About ... Once again, we are your humble hosts, your middle-aged movie boys. I am the Big Daddy D, David Mabley, and I belong in a museum.
And I am Luke Murphy, and I am too busy looking good.
You are, you really are.
And you definitely do belong in a museum.
So, as you've probably seen on the channel over the last few weeks and months, we've had an interview with renowned and now retired Hollywood stuntman Steven Lambert. We've had these interviews in sort of short little sections and what have you, just for sort of, in case people would like to watch sort of shorter videos. But now we're going to compile all of them together of the sort of 2-hour sort of interview that I had with Steven. I've like cut it down into sort of nicely condensed little bits, and now we're going to put those condensed little bits together into one complete video to make this essentially episode 2 of our series.
Series 4.
So this is We Need to Talk About ... Steven Lambert. So let's go over now to the interview with Steven Lambert, or Batman as he decides to start the interview as. And,
Fair enough. I mean, let's be honest with you. If he can be anybody, be Batman.
Yeah. Or the Silver Masked Ninja.
Yeah.
And yes, we'll see you in the pub later on.
Yeah. Enjoy.
So, I'm here today with Batman.
Can I do the interview like this? Can I do the interview like this?
You can wear whatever you want, Stephen. Wear a cowboy hat, wear a Batman mask, whatever you're comfortable.
Okay, I'll take it off.
So, we are joined here today by Steven Lambert. He is an award-winning Hollywood stuntman and fight and stunt coordinator. Amongst Steven's many achievements and accolades, he has stunt doubled for River Phoenix in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and he created the iconic motorcycle sidecar and umbrella scene. He was the original teacher of Jason Scott Lee for the film Dragon: The Bruce Lee Story. He starred alongside the likes of Chuck Norris, Sho Kosugi, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Steven Seagal, and many, many others. And he is the only stuntman ever to do action scenes on the actual Statue of Liberty in the 1985 movie Reno Williams' The Adventure Begins. He is a stuntman, an action actor, and coordinator known throughout the world, and he can now add author to his list of talents, as he has written his autobiography, Steven Lambert, From the Streets of Brooklyn to the Halls of Hollywood. And it is our absolute pleasure to speak to him today.
David, it's nice to be here. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and your audience out there, thank you for having me. I hope you enjoy this interview, and I'm happy to be here. Everybody out there, make sure they stay safe.
Absolutely, especially in these uncertain times. So when I was reading through the book, you start off, numerous times throughout the book, you refer to yourself as a skinny punk kid from Brooklyn who ended up in this incredible world of Hollywood and martial arts. I suppose your martial arts journey really began when you were moved from Brooklyn to California, and you found yourself stood outside the dojo of Master Douglas Wong, and you were seeing all these incredible animal styles and weapon styles being practiced, and that eventually led to being invited inside the dojo to take part. And I absolutely loved the story when you went back to your grandparents and you asked them if you could take part in learning martial arts, and they said no. But then you went ahead and did it anyway.
Yes.
And the story about your grandmother making you a black martial arts uniform that was similar to your master's, Douglas Wong's.
You know, I had that before I presented it to Fantasy Island. I mean, I tell the story about where that uniform went to, the progression of that uniform. But when my grandmother made that, I cherished it so much. But I got to tell you what the funny part about it is, and I don't know if I wrote this specifically, is, you know, I never showed Douglas Wong or James Liu or Albert Leong or anybody. It stood in my closet until Fantasy Island, or in my bedroom, and I put it on a couple of times to work out privately at my place. But they never knew it existed.
What do you think Master Wong's reaction would have been if he found out that you'd had a suit made that was very similar to his? Do you think he would have? Do you think he would have found that funny?
You know, that's a good question. That's a good question. You know, with his personality as wonderfully as he is, he would have just smiled and enjoyed it and respected it. And, you know, it's like a badge of honor. And, but I would have been, James Liu would have been a different story. He would have said, get that off, because that uniform, Doug's uniform, it was originally Doug's uniform, the original one, it went to James Liu. And that's the black and white one that he won all the tournaments in and he wore while he was competing. So, you know, that was his baby. And James, God bless him, great friend of mine, we're like brothers. He wouldn't have liked anybody looking like him. And the uniform would have probably been out, you know, and I would have had to respect that and understood that. But I never showed anybody because I was embarrassed. That was the only really reason. Nobody found out until I did the piece on Fantasy Island and they saw it on TV.
Fantasy
Island,
Island,
they
yeah.
all, I know that uniform, and then I explained it to them, and it's an old, wonderful memory between all of us.
I mean, your grandparents originally said no to you learning Kung Fu, but then you went and enrolled anyway. Did they eventually find out, and what was their reaction?
Well, I was very stubborn. I was very stubborn, and was very independent. And I was working, making my own money. And I was left there, so I felt like I was on my own. And you know, I was always more of an adult than a kid. And it was something that I wanted to do really bad because, as you read in the book, I wasn't a very happy kid when I came to California. And all of a sudden, you know, I wanted to do something that I might have enjoyed, and people were stopping me. God bless my grandparents. So that's some of the reason.
And at the age of 18, you appeared in your first movie when you starred alongside Chuck Norris, of all people, in the film Good Guys Wear Black. And you would later work with Chuck again on Missing in Action. You had met Chuck before at martial arts tournaments, but what was he like to work with?
He was, you know, from the first time, as you know, in the book, I've worked with Chuck Norris, Aaron Norris, and Eric Norris many, many of times. The first time we met, Chuck Norris, I was a kid, probably around 17 years old, competing, and he judged me. That's the first time we laid eyes on each other. And in the movies, he admired my work, and I happened to be in a wonderful position. I became friends with Aaron Norris first, and Aaron Norris brought me on, and at an early age, I did several of Chuck's movies and several episodes on the TV show Texas Ranger. In fact,
Texas Ranger,
Chuck,
yes.
such a good guy to me, and he respected my work, and he enjoyed my work. He gave me a co-starring role on one of the episodes. And the role, as I explain in the book, was an unbelievable role because it was just like the role with him and Bruce Lee in a smaller version. And it was very similar, the story point. I was a bad guy, hired to, you know, kill Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris was a bad guy hired to Bruce Lee to kill Bruce Lee. And I came off on it. I mean, my interest was on a jet, a beautiful jet. And I mean, the story is just an absolute precious story.
I suppose that's similar to Chuck's entrance in Way of the Dragon, isn't it?
I hold that episode to my heart. And Chuck is a very, very wonderful guy. Good sense of humor, good listener, very good businessman. And he respects people who he knows that they know what they're doing. And they trust him. And he's absolutely joy to work with. And Aaron Norris, his brother, is a very great guy, very good human being. You know, I say in the book, he has multiple personalities. I find that very interesting. And he's a lot of fun to be with. Completely the opposite of Chuck. They're like night and day. I've been on some great adventures with both of them. I was fortunate enough to be on a number of his movies and probably about a dozen of the TV shows whenever I was available. So it was a lot of fun.
I mean, one of the stories that I did enjoy was when you were working with Bette Midler on The Rose. You were a bodyguard for that time, and there was a lovely story when she found out that you were going to be her bodyguard, she touched you on the cheek and she called you a sweet boy.
That memory is so precious because, first of all, Bette Midler in those days, she was way out. You know, as people read now, you know, she snorted cocaine, she drank. I mean, everybody knows that and all that. But she was a very wild woman. And as I explained in that story, you know, the alcohol, all the extras in that scene, everybody you see at her concert, they were all drunk. It was all real. And again, the things you see in the movies, you know, when you work, you never hear stories like that. People are scared to death telling the true stories, what really went on with people. But when she did that to me, she looked at me and it was like, you know, you're 5'9", you weigh 155 pounds. How the hell are you going to protect me type of thing? You know, I've gotten that a lot, believe me. But I rest assured her and I said, don't worry. And, you know, it was just a precious moment. Bette Midler talking to me and you know, maybe thinking, you know, how the hell is this guy gonna save me? Because, you know, that movie, everything you saw there at her concerts that wasn't choreographed. Everything was all real. Yeah. I know that because I was her bodyguard. I was hired by the Extras Guild, a friend of mine when I worked extra. I wasn't working extra then, but he asked me to do him a favor. And I was actually right below stage with a number of guys that the company hired to bodyguard, you know, real live audience that got in for free, in a movie for free, and they passed them out real alcohol. And you never hear stories like that. That was real alcohol. Those people were out there in the audience were all drunk. And, you know, we did get into a couple of confrontations, as you read. And, you know, those are eye-opening moments and they're precious moments. And, you know, things like that don't usually happen to you in an ordinary life. And the movie business is a very special. I am so blessed to be in it, and I was so lucky that I had, you know, 47 years of in that career, and it was just wonderful, the experiences and the people you run into. And as I explained, I'm a people watcher, always had been, and so I always watched, you know, and I was always in a position where I saw the best things. You know, I saw the curtains being dropped. With directors, with producers, with actors, with other stunt people, things that you don't normally see, you know, and I explained those things in the book. You know, it's 748 pages, something to that effect. it's like an encyclopedia. And
It is a huge book.
It's in my career in a nutshell, and I tried to keep you interested on every page. That was it took me 2 years. That was my hope. And, it's the first time I ever tried anything like that. I've written a lot for movies, action-wise, scene-wise, but, I sat down long and hard trying to figure out how I was going to write this book. Because like I said before, I didn't want it to be like everybody else's.
I suppose it's a lot to sort of put it all on a page, isn't it? If it's you're putting your entire life story sort of down on the page, and you sort of talk about those precious moments. I mean, over the years, did you have any other further interactions with Bette Midler, or was it just that one time?
Never saw her again. She was a very nice lady, but she was as high as a kite all through that movie. And in those days, Nancy Reagan, Ronald Reagan, Nancy, always say no, whatever slogan she had. She went every place else, but she never went into the movies. And, as I explained in the book, in the middle 70s, early 80s, it was infested. And nobody, no cops, no police, no government ever went into the movies, never went into the studios. It was forbidden. And directors, producers, actors, props, special effects, stuntmen, extras, it was all over the place, all over the studios. I was a pure kid from Brooklyn, never drank a beer, never did anything until I was 21. And when I got into movies for a year, they poisoned me. And, I did it for a year. And then I realized, as I explained in the book, what am I doing? I hate this feeling. I mean,
yeah,
being up all night, is a miserable feeling. Having a hangover is a miserable feeling. And I wanted to be one of the boys, And in those days, it was very heavy. And I was an athlete. Pure athlete. And after a year, thank God, I just woke up one night and one morning, and I just said, it's enough of this. So
that's enough. No more.
Everybody else went on, but I just stopped that stuff. But I saw it and experienced it, and it was an unbelievable era, because if somebody wrote a movie about it, it would be unbelievable, because it was a whole nother world. If you went into a studio, I mean, it was all over the place, in the bathrooms, directors would just turn around, take out a bottle and just snort it. Stuntmen would just, go in their dressing room right before a stunt and do it up. And, I would just look at them and just say, they would want to rehearse 100 times. And if a person rehearses something 100 times, he can't do it that first time on camera because he's too tired. So there were guys like Jimmy Nickerson, a very famous, well-known stunt guy. He's passed away, unfortunate, but he was a crazy man. He would, I worked with him many times, and he would get high and want to rehearse 50 times, full out. And you just don't do that. But he wanted to do that, and you would have to do that, being a novice at the beginning. After a while, you just say, get lost, Jimmy, go pretend, but at the very beginning, you have to do as you're told. It's very humorous, very, very good memories.
Yes. I suppose you've had the opportunity to work with a lot of sort of legendary people, some of whom are sadly no longer with us. So again, we're sort of talking about those precious moments. You worked with Jim Kelly on One Down, Two to Go. Jim Kelly, a massive icon in martial arts and blaxploitation. Obviously, he appeared in Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee. What was Jim Kelly like to work with?
Well, it's you know, that's a wonderful moment, one of my precious moments, because I thought to myself, what the hell am I doing here? Imagine walking into a production office and there's Jim Kelly, Fred Williamson, and Jim Brown. And I had no idea. I thought I was just going to go meet the production manager and Fred Williamson. It was quite an experience. I mean, Jim Kelly, you know, I'm a fan of Jim Kelly's. You know, he worked on Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee. You know, I mean, he was big time to me then. And Fred Williamson, I mean, he did many movies. You know, many B movies. You know, Mr. Big Shot. You know, Mr. Big Shot. You know, Mr. Cool. And he's exactly like that in real life. And Jim Brown, very quiet man. And, you know, hero of mine, football player. I love football. And, you know, everybody out there knows Jim Brown. He's badass, man of very few words. Imagine spending a couple hours with him in a production office when you have no idea. You know, I got brought in there by a Caucasian production manager, not knowing what this film was all about. I had no idea. He had worked with me in the past, and I was available, this production manager, and I said yes. So I walked in there, and when I saw Jim Kelly in the office and Jim Brown, I mean, Jim Brown's leaning back on his luxury chair with a cigar, with Fred Williamson's doing the same thing, and there's Jim Kelly. And the experience, I'm not going to tell that story. You have to buy the book. But you'll enjoy it. It's worth every penny. It's $25,
Yes,
very,
yes.
very inexpensive. I wanted people to be able to afford it. But the story with Jim Kelly is very precious. I'll tell you this much. I got to throw some kicks at Jim Kelly. Now, how it happened, the dialogue between Williamson and Jim Brown and Jim Kelly, I tell you, the experience. Please get the book. You'll enjoy it. And you'll enjoy that story. But I was very lucky to meet Jim Kelly. And I tell another story about Jim Kelly in the book. That's a very precious story. And I was trying to be a good Samaritan in that other story about Jim Kelly, but he took it the wrong way, I guess, and walked out on me. Now, you audience out there saying, well, what the hell are you talking about? You have to get the book. Get the book.
You have to get the book. You have to get the book
Yes.
to get the full story.
So from there, you went on to work for the Canon Film Group, and you did a number of films with Menahem Golan. You do hear a lot of horror stories coming from behind the scenes, sort of years later, of what went on at Canon Films. What was your personal experience like of working with Canon Films, in particular when you were doing the ninja films with Sho Kosugi?
When I got this film, I was prepared, but at the same time, I was so excited because it was my first huge chance. I coordinated little things before then. It was my first big opportunity, and what made it greater, I had learned while I was doing it, is because it was low budget and because of the people I was dealing with, it schooled me. Day by day, it taught me things that maybe it would take me years to learn, because these people in Canon Films, they were so wonderful, but they were so different and so unusual. The bare bones, the arguing, the discussions, the way they go about things, the way they have conversations weren't the normal. You know, it wasn't working. It wasn't like working for, you know, my past TV shows or movies. You know, this was working for an Israeli company, Menahem Golan, and he had his own rules and he had his own ways. They had their own ways because they were all following. So when I walked in there, you know, you got to remember 98% of Canon Films were all Israelis.
Yeah.
You know, none of this, you know, you'd walk onto a show and it would be 98% Israeli and 2% American or whatever, literally. And so when I got Revenge of the Ninja, in the learning respect, it was so wonderful, because I had to deal with so many personalities, and it taught me so much so quick. Because it was a wonderful, crazy movie, and I always say a stunt coordinator is very similar when it comes to dealing with people to psychiatrists. You know, people don't realize you're head of a department, the entire action department, whether it's one day or 3 months or a year, you're in charge of it. So you're talking to every department. And when it comes to Canon Films, you know, every department was Israeli, mostly. And they all had their way. And they were all didn't understand the American way. Luckily, I was taught two ways. I was taught the old-fashioned way, meaning from the old-timers, you know, to the expensive way of doing things. And Canon Films was notoriously, you know, cheap. So I was way ahead of the game, you know, as far as knowing how to get things done. And on top of that, there was so many things that benefited me there because, you know, on one hand, I was writing all the action. The pages were blank. I was creating all the scenes, all the action scenes, all the moments, the special moments, all the stunts, all the fights, writing them down, designing them, putting them in the script. That was a wonderful experience that I never had to that extent. On the other hand, because they were so cheap, I couldn't afford everything that I had in there. So I had no choice but to do it myself. I mean, I could sit with you on Revenge, besides being the Silver Masked Ninja, I can sit there and I could literally, you know, say, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. You'll get sick of it, you know, because I didn't have any money. And if I wanted it in the film, I'd have to do it. Because it's an expense to hire somebody to do it. So I would have to do it. So that stuff happened 4 or 5 times a day. Otherwise, you just have an empty scene, you know, with, you know, the 2 lead guys. And then dealing with so many people and to such an extent and having so much control, thanks to Sam Furstenberg, my director, it gave me so much learning that, you know, my first 3 films were the ninja films. You know, I did things in between, you know, but my first 3 big films were ninja films. The things that I learned and did on there, I mean, it was 40 years of knowledge, 50 years of knowledge that I put to practice. So it was a wonderful experience as I moved on. A wonderful experience. You couldn't stump me because I knew how to do things, you know, low budget and high budget. So it was wonderful. And dealing with those people were wonderful. And, you know, on Revenge of the Ninja, working with Sam Furstenberg and Sho Kosugi and my DP, who was David Garfinkel, my DP, Hananya and the other ninjas, my script supervisor, Ronit, you know, we were a team. We all knew our strengths and we all listened to each other. And it was a beautiful team. Sho Kosugi on Revenge of the Ninja was wonderful to work with. We became like family. You know, Sho Kosugi was, he's a true master. What made him a master was, you know, he did a lot of live shows, Magic Mountain. A lot of people don't realize this, but he came from martial arts. When he came to United States, California, he worked at Magic Mountain. And if you do a live show consistently, you know you're doing good because you're in front of an audience. if an audience reacts to an applaud, to excitement, you knowing you do good. So Sho Kosugi had so much experience doing that stuff, you know, and you know, I'm from martial art background, and I'm a stunt man, and I did live shows when I was you know, a kid. So, you know, we gelled so well. And, you know, when it came to the stunts, I did and came up with all the stunts. When it came to the fights, you know, we were a team. And when I put something together, when I wrote something, I would bring it to Sam Furstenberg. And then after Sam Furstenberg put in his thoughts, what he had, I would put that in. And then we would bring it to Sho Kosugi. And then he made his small changes. And then we had a scene to do. And that's what we did. And, you know, I would be, as I write in the book, which never happened to me before, I always had a wardrobe. You know, those wardrobe units where wardrobe hangs up all their clothes. I had a movable one wherever I went on those pictures, on those ninja pictures, because I would change. I would say, okay, I need this. I need these clothes. I need a pedestrian. I need a construction worker. I need a suit, you know. So they accumulated so many different kinds of wardrobe because at the spur of the moment, I needed something, or I would take somebody's place and I would get, or I would add something, and they would just have a moving wardrobe little unit for me wherever I went. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. But Menahem, let's get back to Menahem. Menahem was a beautiful person. I was very disappointed in the two films that they did about Menahem, because they didn't.
Yes, the on Canon, yeah, the Canon Films documentary.
Yes.
What was it? Electric Boogaloo, wasn't it?
Yeah, because they didn't get into what Menahem was really like. You know, they should have had people that really worked with him, really understood him. You know, I called him the Louis B. Mayer of the 80s. You know, he went by his own horn. He was, you know, nobody could tell him what to do. Nobody could tell him a law. Nobody could tell him the way to do things. I mean, I tell a great story in the book. You know, one day he came on the set, and, you know, I was working for Sam Furstenberg. No action that day. He just came to visit. I mean, we had some wonderful conversations, about his daughter. I'm sure you had a good laugh about how his daughter felt about me. You know, some people say I should have married her, but I just couldn't bring myself to it. God bless her. But
I think he wanted you to marry his daughter.
No,
he seems to be quite keen on the idea.
Characters, wonderful characters. But and Menahem, I loved Menahem. I really loved Menahem, and I really disappointed. Nobody's ever, you know, got into him and really explained, because he was really a beautiful person. Scared a lot of people to death, but if you understood him, he was a pussycat. But one day, I tell a story in the book, and I'll tell the audience. One day, no action. I happened to be on the set. Maybe there was action later on in the day, and I was just waiting. One of the few times I was just waiting around. And Menahem came on the set, just flew in, came on the set, and Shmulik was right in the middle of a scene inside the house. And in Hebrew, Menahem told him to sit down. And now, mind you, Shmulik already shot a half a day of this scene. You know, he's just continuing it and working the other angles. But Menahem didn't care. You know, he didn't know what he was shooting. He didn't know how he was shooting. He didn't know anything about it. He told Shmulik to sit down, and he took over directing for the rest of the day. And I'm watching this, and the actors are trying to explain to him, you know, this is not what we shot. I don't care. You just do. I like it this way. You know, anyway, to make a long story short, you know, everybody just did what Menahem wanted. And at the end of the day, he left. And the next day, Shmulik took over. And he started from the very beginning, where Menahem started. and continue to see. That was Menahem. You know, he called me. He never really called me a lot by my name, Steve. Very rarely. When he first saw me, when he talked to me, when he introduced me, he always called me the crazy man. You know, crazy man, come here, you crazy man. You know, and then after we talked, he would call me Steve, but he always called me the crazy man. And I tell some wonderful stories about Menahem and I. You know, I mean, when I tell a great story with David Womark and I and Sam Furstenberg, when we're sitting having lunch, and Menahem comes to visit us, and he wants to talk to me about Naomi, because Naomi and I weren't getting along, and Naomi was his daughter, and she was head of wardrobe, you know, and she had a crush on me, and it was my fault.
She destroyed she destroyed some of your suits, didn't she? She destroyed some of the suits that you had, the ninja suits.
Don't tell him the story. Don't tell him what went on.
No. I won't say the full story. No, but
yeah, who would ever think somebody would do that? But she was Menachem's daughter. But there's some wonderful moments working for Canon. I probably did about eight, 9 films for Canon. I was a stunt coordinator for one day on Electric Boogaloo, and it's a hilarious story. Until Shabadoo found out I was there.
Yeah.
And once Shabadoo found out I was there, you know, it's the first time I was fired. And I said, okay, you can't fire me, but I'll leave. And I got him another stunt coordinator. I told Shmuley, your star just fired me. What do you mean he fired you? Because your female star told him who I was. And, you know, because we were going out at the time. Lucinda and Dickie and I had a thing for each other. And he was a little insecure about it, so he didn't want me on the set. So I replaced myself with a guy named Tommy Rosales. So I worked one day on Electric Boogaloo. It's a funny story.
I suppose one person who has a reputation of not being very pleasant to work with is Steven Seagal. You yourself had some first-hand experience of that in Out for Justice. And of course, you talk about in the book the situation between Seagal and Jean LeBell, which they sort of tried to get you sort of in the middle of that. But I also noticed when reading the book, you were quick to jump to Seagal's defense when people like Ronda Rousey and Joe Rogan criticized him. So I suppose my question is, what do you think of Seagal, and what is your opinion of him?
First of all, the story with Jean LeBell and Steven Seagal. There are many stories out there, and I tell you the story, the true story in my book, word for word. It's detailed. I felt that was important because you need to tell people facts and details, not because of the book, because of what really happened. There are many stories out there. I explain what happened. There are people calling me a liar. And I would say shame on them. And it's even more than shame to go on an interview and to literally lie. And these people, guys, girls, from Ronda Rousey to other stunt people to stunt coordinators. I mean, I had realized that movie people, stunt people, actors, are very similar to politicians. They're very good liars. And that's what they do. They lie. I tell you the truth, word for word, what happened with that Jean LeBell, Steven Seagal, who was there, what happened. You know, I've had stunt guys, all the way up to the stunt coordinator of the show, tell fantasy stories. And it breaks my heart because these are my friends. You know, they're making me look bad. They're trying to make me look bad. Why? Yeah. Well, maybe because they want a job in the future. Maybe because they're good friends with Seagal when it comes to certain people. I don't know. But they tell people the things that they didn't really see. There's no way that they didn't see it. I was there. I tell you who was there. There was only Seagal, LeBell, myself, a guy named, another stuntman named Lincoln Simon, and 2 bodyguards. Those were the only people that saw from beginning to end. I tell you what happened, what didn't happen. And, you know, as far as people like Ronda Rousey, you know, she does this for publicity. She loves Gene LeBell. I love Gene LeBell. She's going to make him look like $1 million. She's going to embellish the story. She's going to tell you things that simply aren't the truth, just to make herself, you know, she needs publicity, make herself look better. Same thing with other stunt people. They want to get jobs from other people, you know, it's that type of thing. Me, I wrote the book because I'm retired. I tell you the truth. I'm not looking for the future. I have a book and I have a movie that I write. That's my only hopes to get done. I'm 68 years old. I'm retired. I retired a few years ago. I thought, you know, when I told this story, there are many people that came to me before I wrote the book. And I said no, because I didn't want it told. I did tell a story. I did agree to tell a story. Steven Seagal asked me to come in. I explained this in the book, only to explain to the millions of people out there that Steven Seagal did not pee in his pants and did not go into convulsions. I told Seagal and other people that's the only thing I would say. Well, in the book, I explained to you, they try to get me to say more than that. And it's quite, it was quite an experience. See, there's more to the Gene LeBell, Steven Seagal story than just the confrontation. It's what happened before, the experiences, the involvement I was in before. Yeah. So, you know, there's a beginning to this story, there's a middle, and there's an end. And now, as far as Seagal, I have a lot of respect for Seagal's art, for Seagal's talent as a martial artist. As a movie maker, sorry to say I have very little respect because I worked on a few Seagal pictures and was very involved with Seagal in a lot of pictures. He's asked me to stunt coordinate, fight coordinator a couple of his pictures where I wasn't able to. And I've worked with him a few times. And when you work with a person, sometimes you work one day, sometimes you work 2 months with a person, so you get to know him. And, you know, the stories that he enjoys hurting people, at that time, I'm not saying now, but at that time he did. And it's sad to say, you know, he had a group of martial artists, very nice guys, his students, people that he always brought in the early days to his movies. And he did that because he knew he could, this is my feeling, the things that I saw, and I have very good common sense. And visually, like I tell you, I'm a people watcher. And I see and hear what I see and hear, and I take it all in, and I understand what's going on. And he brought these people just to hurt, to know, because you're not allowed to hurt stunt people. You know, that's forbidden. Accidents happen, you know, but deliberately. And he brought these people in, and I would go to them, I would walk over to them and get with my stunt bag. And my stunt bag, one of many things that are in a stunt bag are pads to protect you. Elbows, knees, hip pads, back pads, you know, things like that. And I would offer them up, you know, because they were getting slapped. There's nothing wrong with putting on pads. People don't see it. It protects you so you can work in the future. And they would say no because he wouldn't allow it. True stories. Yeah, I tell you a story in that book where he tried to hurt me, and thank God I'm like a monkey, and I was able to twist out of it in midair. Otherwise, my arm would have been broken in half. And I mean, when something like that happens and you get out of it and you put a stop to it, you cut, you know, my heart was going a mile a minute because, you know, there was a split second there where if I wouldn't have been so fit and so understanding of martial artists and being a martial artist, having that understanding how to twist out of it, he would have broke my arm in half. And so that's the kind of things he had in the past, many, many, many years. Yeah. And there were many stunt people, friends of mine, who he hurt. He was prone to hurt you. You know, he didn't understand that if you hired a good fight man, you know, he would make it look better than if you hurt him for real, if you hit him for real. He just didn't understand that. You know, there's a thing called body language. And in a movie business, to understand, that's why Bruce Lee was so good to Kelly, the dancer.
Yeah, Jim Kelly.
That's why they were so good. Was their action acting, their facial expression, their body language. You know, a good fight man understands that, and that's what they bring to the fight. If you don't let that in, and if you just want to hurt the person, just hit him and he goes down, you don't see what you're doing, Steven Seagal, isn't going to be exciting on screen. And he enjoyed that, unfortunately, sorry to say. Now, as far as understanding when people mislead the world, like Ronda Rousey and whoever else, when they tell stories about him and Gene LeBell, that story, you know, I feel sorry for him. He's been with this story for, you know, a long, long, long time. And it's really hurt him, unfortunately. And I feel bad for him, you know. And I do some interviews in private. And I tell this story. I said, you know, here's an idea. If you did an interview, if you talked to Gene LeBell, and I'm sure Gene LeBell would agree with this because I know Gene LeBell very well. We're very close. And if you get Steven Seagal, and if you talk to both of them and get them together on an interview, have them walk in, write something funny. You know, you can write something funny about that. You know, hey, I hadn't seen you since that time you peed in your pants, Gene LeBell. No, you went into convulsions, Steven Seagal. You know, write something like that. And they hug and kiss and you know, talk about old memories and people and shake hands and leave. I said, everybody will forget it. Gene LeBell wants to do it, but Steven Seagal doesn't want to do it. And if you did something like that, the whole thing would end. But he doesn't want to do it. So it's unfortunate. On one hand, I feel sorry for him. On the other hand, you know, you reap what you sow. Is that what they say? In America.
That is what this, yes, that is the saying, yeah.
Yes.
Training Jason Scott Lee for Dragging the Bruce Lee story. Now, I know that Jason was under a tremendous amount of pressure to portray Bruce Lee the way he did. And as yourself, as someone who yourself was a huge fan of Bruce, was there a certain amount of pressure on you to make sure that Jason looked the part? And how quickly did Jason take to the training?
Well, oh boy, we can go on for an hour on that. I explain a lot in the book. That is, you know, you work a long time in the movie business, and you think you've seen everything. You've been through everything. And at that stage in my career, I thought I'd seen everything. And that was quite a movie, quite of an experience. And like I explained to you, first of all, like I explained to you very little throughout our conversations is, and I'll try to make it real short now, is I was very blessed because people saw things in me and knew I had things mentally and physically of an understanding than most. And Rob Cohn was one of them, the director, producer, on that movie. We had worked together on another movie, and the book explains that. There's a lot of history in that book on the dragon. That was probably the hardest show, most difficult show I ever did. And it was enjoyable, but at the same time, it was very, very difficult. I mean, there's a lot to that. That I had no idea. I was doing a screen test. You know, I was teaching Jason Scott Lee, and all of a sudden Rob Cohen says, we need a screen test in order to do the movie. Well, I thought we had the movie already.
Sorry, I suppose essentially then they had to demonstrate on screen that Jason could do the moves, could essentially do all the moves and the mannerisms of Bruce before they would even allow the film to go ahead. So I suppose I suppose it's safe to say without you that the film wouldn't have been made, full stop.
Well, I don't know if you ever saw the screen test. It's on YouTube.
I've seen footage of the screen test. Yeah, it's you can find it on YouTube if you search long enough. But yeah, even from that sort of sort of early footage, you can see that Jason's got the moves and the mannerisms.
I had not a very long time to teach Jason, and it's a wonderful story how we got Jason. You know, believe it or not, there were two other actors involved, and believe it or not, Rob Cohen asked me. You know, I screen tested all three of them. I interviewed all three of them physically, and I came up with Jason was the best. And Rob Cohen followed my lead, and he picked Jason. Now, whether or not, you know, Rob Cohen decided already that it was Jason, you know, he asked me, he picked three guys, and he asked me to interview physically the three guys, and I picked Jason. And then we decided we're going to start training him for the movie. Then he came to me to do a screen test, and I said, well, we got to hire a bad guy to fight Jason for the screen test. Because Rob Cohen explained to me I can't get the movie going. The Black Tower, Universal, won't give me the money unless they see the guy on film playing Bruce Lee. And that was a big challenge because I've always imitated Bruce Lee.
I noticed when you were playing the Silver Masked Ninja in Revenge of the Ninja, you had a lot of Bruce Lee mannerisms when you were the ninja in Revenge of the Ninja, the Silver Masked Ninja. A lot of things you did there were very similar in terms of mannerisms to Bruce.
Yes, a lot of people don't realize, and this is the first time I'm being asked, but in fact, that was a combination of Bruce, my version of Bruce movements, and me incorporating a little Bruce Lee, a little Kelly, the dancer, a little of those guys into the character. Because whenever stunt people fight, they have no personality. And that's another thing that drew me far, gave me a lot of work, because everything I did, even if I was doubling an actor, the actor would copy me. Because the director and the stunt coordinator, when I first started, I wasn't a stunt coordinator. It was only till later on I became a stunt coordinator. But, you know, the stunt coordinator, the director would say, okay, we want you to do this. And I would do this, but I would do it in my version. And it was always with animation, always with motion in my face, motion in my body, action acting, you know, and even the actor would copy me, which all stunt guys never did. So that's another thing I brought in to me. So I understood Bruce Lee. My art isn't Jeet Kune Do. but I worked out with a lot of Jeet Kune Do people in my lifetime. That's how you get to know other styles, is you're a black belt and you have enough common sense so you understand how to learn from other people and how to pick up other styles from other black belts, from other styles when you're a black belt. So I knew Jeet Kune Do visually. I knew Bruce Lee visually. We all copied him. We all imitated him, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I went with. You know, I had, you know, it was months and months of training, not only physically, but, you know, we looked at all of Bruce Lee's interviews, all of Bruce Lee's movies every day, you know. You know, we worked on it, and that's what we came up with. Jason worked very hard worker. I mean, we worked 16, 17 hours, literally, sometimes. We lived together, practically. You know, that's how important this character was, very important, you know, because Bruce is a god, a literal god to so many people out in the world. In fact, I tell a story in the book, and I won't explain it, but Jason did break down, and I tell the story in the book, and we had a major conversation, and he went on because of our major conversation. What became of our relationship as we were, because of the people I hired. I mean, this is a whole soap opera. This movie was a whole soap opera that I was involved with. What became of our relationship as we were doing this movie changed. And it was because of the people, some of the people I had to work with and some of the people I hired, which I explain in the book. But it was an opportunity of a lifetime, because how many stunt guys, Caucasian, could say they were the stunt coordinator, the original teacher, and the fight coordinator? Because I shot many sequences on film before we did the movie, on the movie, of his fights in every scene of the dragon. So Rob Cohen had that to look at too, which most people don't know about. But it's probably one of my biggest honors in a lifetime that a punk kid from Brooklyn, Caucasian, stuntman, martial artist, did the dragon and had those opportunities to be somebody of importance at the time for this movie to go in many ways, shapes, and form. And I thank Rob Cohen, the entire thing. Beautiful guy, wonderful guy, very, very, very good director, and I'm surprised he's not doing more.
So one of the reasons why Justin reached out to myself is because on the show we had previously reviewed Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins. So at this point then in your career, you're on Remo Williams, you're winning stunt awards. You actually won your second Stunt Academy Award for Remo Williams.
Yes.
And you're the only actor to ever work on the actual sort of Statue of Liberty. I mean, watching the scene where Remo is hanging from the Statue of Liberty, you can see just exactly how far he has to fall. And considering how exciting the Statue of Liberty scene was in Remo Williams, do you feel that scene should have maybe been the finale in the film? And how did you sort of go about sort of prepping for that for that scene?
The stunt coordinator on that show, the second unit director, was a guy named Glenn Randall Jr. And he knew me, and he knew my ability. You see, at that time, when I first started in the middle 70s, there weren't many, if any, stunt people, athletes like me in the business. The stunt people were they were weightlifters, they were cowboys, they were gangster types, They drove cars, they drove motorcycles, you know. In fact, I can tell you, which was factual, the stunt people of then and before laughed at martial artists as fighters. They thought we were a bunch of clowns. You know, that's the kind of stunt people that were in that. I mean, you know, the Gene LeBells, you know, the Bill Ryasakis, you know, the martial art stunt people then, you know, it wasn't the same because they were, Gene LeBell was everybody's friend, you know, and he was a wrestler, and he came, you know, they had, the stunt people had been with him for, you know, 50 years before. So he was an exception. And he was judo, you know. But the things we did as martial artists, the kicks and punches and the takedowns and the breaks and the moving around, they thought of us like a bunch of clowns. And I explained that in the book. We weren't respected. When I came in, there were people like James Liu, Albert Young, Jeff Amata, Rick Avery, and Mike Vendrell. You know, there were six of us. And we're different in every aspect. And I worked sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. You know, I was a Caucasian, skinny Caucasian, 5'9". You know, I could play 16, I can play 21. You know, that's how young I looked. So I worked all the time. This Glenn Randall knew me, and he knew my ability. I brought in martial arts, I learned stunts, and the things I did in martial arts, I incorporated in movie fighting. And I'll give an example. An American bullet hit. You shot me. You would shoot me. Well, you would shoot another stuntman. And he would take the bullet hit, get killed, fall on the ground, right? I always looked at that as everybody's doing the same thing. I want to be noticed. So what I would do when you would shoot me, right? As you raised the gun, I would like react and pretend like I was getting out of the way or you know, move in some kind of reflex, flinching, and I would jump up and do a double kick as high, just a double kick as high as I can jump, and then at the very end of that kick, at the tippy top, which brought me like 6 feet high, I would go back and I would fall on my back on solid cement, all in one shot. These stunt people never saw anything like that. And I learned how to do that in martial arts, how to fall from high things. And you know, and so they'd hire me all the time. So what I'm getting at, making a long, short story, supposed to be long, is this guy Glenn Randall knew me, knew my ability, knew what I could do. You know, I would jump 2 stories on solid cement, pose and run out of a shot. You know, my athleticism was above and beyond. So this stunt coordinator knew me. So he knew that it would take, in normal situations with another stuntman, it would take days, weeks to do some of the things to prepare for safety and rig, angle up this, bring in that. With me, he knew, you know, I'm 360 feet high. I don't need no rigging. I don't need no safety. I don't want it, first of all, because in my mind, I never liked cables. I never liked rigging, because whatever I did, whatever I was in the middle of, if I wanted to do something else to make it better, this cable would stop me. I couldn't move anymore because it only goes certain positions, you know? And at the very beginning of my career, I realized that, and it stopped me from doing things. So this stunt coordinator knew that he didn't, you know, just go over there. Can you do this? Can you come up with this idea? Can you come up with that? You know, can you jump from here to here? And there was nothing under me. And I knew my ability as a martial artist. You know, I mean, these hands at the time, you know, if I grabbed on something, I would never let go, no matter how difficult it was. And you know, we got so much on that movie, it would have took us another 2-3 months to get everything with another stuntman, because you have to re-rig, set cameras different, you know, set up this, put safety on this. And with me, it didn't matter, and I didn't want it. All through my career, I always said, I don't want this cable. You know, now don't get me wrong. There were some times where I did use a cable. You know, like if you remember, I'm up there on the Statue of Liberty, the opening sequence. You know, just standing there. There's a helicopter shot, just looking all around, seeing, you know, all the water, all of New York State. And I'm just standing up there, and you hear the music. Well, you know, when I poked my head up there, you know, there's 200-mile-an-hour winds. So in order for me to stay up there, I had to be harnessed. I had to put on a harness. I had to get cables, and I had to get. They built steel bars to go up my legs, and they brought me up there mechanically, and I had steel poles going up my legs, because if I would have went up there myself, I would have flew out and flew off there.
Yeah.
That's how strong the wind is, 360 feet high. So for that, something like that, you want cables and safety. But you know, up there on the head, you know, in the face and all through the body, you know, we were lucky they were fixing the statue at that time. So we had all these bars and this erector set all over the place. So
all the scaffolding was already up there. Yes, yeah.
The statue and what I was doing, Fred was doing, more interesting. And to this day, I'm happy to say no others. They never allowed any other stuntman before or after to do the things I did on the statue. So to this day, nobody else has ever had a chance to work on the statue.
You're the only person that's been able to do that.
You know, wonderful memory.
Would you say that's probably the stunt that you're most proud of throughout your whole career, with the Statue of Liberty scene, or is there another scene that you would probably put on the pedestal and say, right, this is my greatest, my greatest stunt, my greatest scene?
You know, this might sound corny, and you've heard this before, but in my entirety of my career, everything I've done, I've always taken to issue. I've always tried to create from the littlest to the biggest, whatever I was doing. And, you know, talking about all the memory stuff, the big stuff, they're all my babies. You know, anything that I worked a long amount of time on, Indiana Jones, the series of ninja pictures, the Remo Williams, everything I do, I always tend to be very serious, light but serious when I'm putting it together and performing it. I'm a very caring guy when it comes to my work. So I don't have one favorite. They're all my babies. They're all, you know, my
they're
work.
All your babies.
You know, it might sound funny and it might sound corny, but you know, to me, I'm like a painter. You know, Leonardo da Vinci. You know, when I did the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the River Phoenix scene, the train sequence, you know, that wasn't written. You know, I wrote it per se with Spielberg. The idea was there, but what we did wasn't written. And you know, some of my heroes are Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, James Cagney, Bruce Lee. You know, they're all my heroes. Douglas Wong, my martial art teacher. They're all my heroes. Anyway, I always took that kind of stuff into my work. And, you know, something like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, whether it's the motorcycle sidecar sequence, that I totally wrote, wasn't in, or, you know, Dublin River Phoenix, you know, it's my baby. And everything else I've always done, I've always, it's all meaningful work, especially when,
Absolutely.
you come from a place where I came from. You know, I didn't have family in it. I wasn't a genius. I wasn't in a position ever to be something, to be somebody that, and this is for all you guys and girls out there who aren't the smartest cookies. As long as you have common sense and you work hard in what you want to do, you know, you could achieve. And I'm living proof. Work hard, believe in yourself, and never give up. And keep your nose clean in honesty and the truth, and you'll make it. Just, that's the key. Work hard. And you know, if somebody tells you not to do this because they don't believe in it, whatever it is, screw them, because it was told to me. And in your life, you have to have something that you enjoy doing if you're going to make it part of your life as far as work. And you know, if you enjoy your work, it's a beautiful life.
To be honest, that sounds like a fantastic way to end this interview. This has been absolutely fantastic, Stephen. Thank you very much for spending this time with us to talk with myself and talk with our audience. Good luck with the book. I'm sure from this interview, you're going to be selling many more copies of the book. And until next time, thank you very much for being part of this. And hopefully we'll get a chance to do this again further down the road.
Let me say thank you, David. It's been wonderful. Made me feel very comfortable. Everybody out there, all your audience, I appreciate it. I hope you enjoy this. I hope I gave you some wonderful insight on things. You take care. Again, Steven Lambert, From the Streets of Brooklyn to the Halls of Hollywood. Get it on Amazon.com. And Martial Art History Museum, Michael Matsuda, Burbank, California. Come see it. It's a wonderful, wonderful museum. That's all, folks.
Be sure to check that out if you're in the area. Right, and from me, thank you very much for watching this video, and we will catch you again next time.
Oh, is it over already?
That interview went quickly.
It went very quickly.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so
Yes.
please leave a comment, leave a like, leave a share, leave a subscribe. You know what you need to do. I'm just going to let you get on with doing it. In conclusion, I just want to leave a couple of thank yous. First of all, thank you to Steven Lambert.
I mean, massively thank you, sir.
Massively thank you for taking the time out to do the interview and to talk with us. Thank you to Justin as well, his agent, for setting up this interview in the first place.
Yeah, that was lovely. My apologies that I wasn't there.
I would also like to leave a massive thank you to Luke Owen and Ash Versus from the Under Consultation podcast, the only Games Master podcast. So basically it's like the best and also the worst Games Master podcast, because I got in touch with you guys and asked you, it's like, right, okay, you were interviewing Dominic Diamond, who now lives in Canada.
He's in Canada these days?
He lives in Canada. He's a radio DJ in Canada these days.
Okay.
And I said, okay, how did you guys go about interviewing Dominic Diamond? It's like, well, basically we did it through Zencastr. So I want to thank you guys for basically telling me about Zencastr, giving me all like the technical know-how in knowing how to sort of use Zencastr, which basically made this interview possible in the first place. I'd also like to say a big thank you to my friends Ian Booth and Michael Lee Ray for basically setting up a practice session on Zencastr to basically get me to know how to work it. I will probably upload a brief 10-minute conversation on Zencastr onto my channel as like a...
If you're just going to get taken down after about 5 minutes.
As a bit of a Brucey bonus thing, of sort of saying, right, this is how Zencastr works. We basically talked about beer for about 10 minutes.
Oh, well, that's fine then. That's fine then.
So, yeah, this has been a fantastic opportunity to talk to Steven Lambert as part of our channel. I mean, it's a big thing for him for his book.
Yes.
Follow the link. Yeah. Follow the link on the video description. Buy the book. Buy his book. Have a read of it. If this is like whet your appetite in the world of becoming a Hollywood ninja and stuntman,
It's always. I think it's always nice when you hear sort of stories from somebody that's actually been in there, done that. Obviously, got many T-shirts about and what have you. So it's always nice when it's fine listening to interviews with kind of like the stars.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, it's always more interesting to hear the interviews with the people that were kind of like the ones that were making them.
That's right.
The stars
behind the scenes.
And Mr. Lambert is certainly one of those. Long, varied career. Wonderful films that he's actually worked on.
That's it.
I mean, for me, hearing him talk about working on Dragon the Bruce Lee story.
Oh, yes.
I mean, that for me, that's worth the price of admission alone.
Well,
I know we don't charge admission.
Let me put it bluntly.
I mean, we should do. But
if it wasn't for Steven Lambert, then Dragon the Bruce Lee story
probably wouldn't have happened.
Wouldn't have happened, full stop. So,
or certainly not in the way that we got it.
No. So thank you for that, Stephen. I really appreciate the time that you took to speak to me.
Wonderful.
Regarding your life, your career, the fact that yourself and Justin reached out to me based off our review of Remo Williams. That really speaks volumes to me. That really speaks to me. I mean, what you did for us is brilliant. So, by all means,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
It really means a lot to our channel. I hope it generates a lot more purchases of the book. And in conclusion, thank you very much for joining us for another episode of We Need to Talk About ... In conclusion, I am the Big Daddy D, David Mabley. I will say goodbye.
I am Luke Murphy. I say good evening to you all as well.
And join us for another episode coming up very shortly. So,
thank
you very much.
We'll see you soon.
We'll see you soon.